Hi, welcome.
Hey Amit,
Yeah,
good evening. How are you?
I'm good, Suresh, and thanks for joining so early from US primarily for the community here, which we are trying to build on Thinkly platform, and look forward to have a great engaging sessions today for all the community members here. Okay, so to start with, I just wanted to start with on your personal journey in terms of till now how your journey has moved on primarily on a personal level to a certain extent.
Oh, well, definitely. First of all, Amit, thank you for inviting me for this wonderful session with Thinkly platform. And then I know you and I, when we first met, we were like, hey, you know what? No, you're doing something great in the product management space. And I'm super excited. I mean, I'll tell you, I think, my personal journey has been right now, in 2024, there are so many resources for somebody to say, hey, I want to get into a product management journey. And they can just go open up the web or your friends and whatnot. Right now, there are too many resources. But unfortunately, 15, 20 years back, there is nothing, right? I mean, product management itself is a very nascent career for many, and sometimes people were doing product management but they didn't know that they were actually doing product management, right? But from my own journey point of view, I'm actually from Hyderabad originally, and I did my engineering computer science, and then I was a college dropout from BITS, by the way, and there was a exciting opportunity that I came almost half the way when I was doing BITS, and I had to drop out, and I took a great role at Robert Bosch. And I spent about 6 years in Germany, really in the automotive embedded space, core techie engineering aspect of it. And that's really, I would say, my first foray into product management, right? As you can imagine, Bosch is actually an automotive supplier. I mean, the division that I'm working with, and we actually work with all the manufacturers. I mean, I think of this as the Volkswagen, the BMW, Porsche, and everybody that are around Stuttgart, the southern Germany area. And as you can imagine, I was actually working with a lot of these manufacturers, talking to them about their requirements, and then really seeing. Right now, it just feels crazy, but then it was about 16 megabytes of RAM that we used to have for everybody. I mean, for Bosch, for the manufacturer, and you just need to fit your software in that tiny box, right? And that is still, I mean, I'm sure, it's been 15 years since then. I'm sure, things should have changed, but really, that's the kind of engineering that we were doing. And my biggest revelation was the depth of engineering that I was doing is really, really joyful at the end of the day. But the breadth of work that we did with understanding the requirements, bringing in the right set of priorities to the requirements, and then going through the entire set of delivery process of the software to the customer and then getting the feedback, that was fascinating, right? Because at the end of the day, what's the point of doing something if nobody is appreciating or if there is no commercial value to it at the end of the day, right? And that's really where after that, I mean, I came to the US. It's been about 18 years for me in the San Francisco Bay Area. And especially what happened was the first company that I did was a B2C company here, and think of it as Yelp for kids, right? Super highly localized platform that was about in the B2C area. After that, the second company was actually in the analytics, and I was a product co-founder, and then we sold it to Software AG after a period of time. And then the third company was actually in the construction project management space, again as a product co-founder, and we sold it to Oracle after some point of time. And after that is when there is a lot of that passion from founders across the US and India talking about what does it really mean to build a company and take it from 0 to 1, right? Um, and there is no one pathway, there is no specific guide, and everybody goes through their own process in terms of how do you build a company. And that's exactly what and why we started a startup accelerator called Product 10X, really focused on product-led growth aspect of it. And at this point of time, we have about 22 portfolio companies as part of that. And we kind of help all the founders for 1 year at the minimum. And then we invest with them as well. And lastly, that all experience led to what I call as the sales table at this point of time. So we've identified a great market gap in the mid-market segment and SMB segment, where when you really think about sales leaders, they have a very high challenge in terms of how to do the revenue forecasting, how to maximize their sales reps, and that's what we do with Sales Table, which is a revenue enablement platform to really provide the quota attainment for sales leaders. That's really been my journey throughout. And again, as you can see, product management, building the companies, and then building the startup ecosystem. And that's really what I love at this point of time.
Yeah. Thanks, Suresh. And I think it was a very great journey. We used to listen to stories of college dropouts and then being an entrepreneur. I think your
Yeah.
story also resembles to that to a greater extent. And incidentally, yesterday I was in Hyderabad, could not enjoy the paradise biryani. Somehow was busy in the meeting, but I think city has also come up really well last few years from light infrastructure perspective
Absolutely.
as well as from overall perspective. I think Hyderabad is one of the great destinations in that sense, and has provided a lot of leaders. I think from Hyderabad to IT industry, right? And I think you are being
Definitely.
one of them in that sense, right? So, what is if you can throw some light on the sales table, in some details that how exactly this particular tool or product is going to help in terms of revenue building up for the sales leader in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. So before I get into that, I think I want to provide a little bit of context on what's happening in the industry, right? I mean, uh, sales is the part of the organization that every company has. And as you would think, especially in the engineering product teams, as you scale, as you grow the company from a startup to mid-sized company to a public company and grow from there, typically many of the other organizations can improve their efficiencies as the number of people kind of join. But unfortunately, sales is the only one organization where you just can't improve the efficiencies as you grow. For example, there is an average of about 35 to 40% of organization capacity for sales, no matter how big the company is. It just has to be that size, right? And that's something that we have seen again and again across the world, by the way, right? It's not nothing to do just with the US or India or anywhere. That's the first one. And when we dig into that, why is that so? Here is what is happening, right? Especially within the sales, we have a lot of the sales reps that join, whether they are field sales reps or the SDRs or inside sales reps or AEs, and that category of sales leaders that are out there. They come in, sometimes they don't get proper training, they don't get proper coaching from the sales leaders. Again, when I say training and coaching, it is nothing to do with the seniority of the people that are coming in, by the way, right? Amit, I mean, you've been in the sales leadership, you know this very well, which is when people come in, every company is unique, every product is unique. If you don't give them that aspect of why are they unique, what is the product, what is that uniqueness, what is the pricing structure, how do they sell and how do they position this with respect to their competition, then what we are expecting is the salespeople will go in front of the prospect. They're just winging it, right? I mean, yes, I don't know what I'm saying. I mean, of course, no salesperson would say that, but they're just saying things in a way, and you get only one chance with a prospect, right? We know that, especially when the times are tough like this, you don't really get to have multiple conversations. And especially in some of the very price sensitive markets, you only have one chance to really talk about your product and then understand the customer. So that's one of the major problem where sales leaders go through that experience, and it takes about 6 months to ramp up any salesperson, right? And that's the average, by the way. Again, just for the viewers to understand, ramp period is nothing but when the sales rep comes in, it takes time for them to actually go and attain the quota that they are assigned. And that takes about 6 months at a minimum, which is the industry average. That's the first one that you need to remember. The second thing is, when you really think about the sales reps, it is a well-known fact in the industry, there is a very high churn in the sales reps themselves, right? Which is basically to say, post-pandemic, there is about 40% plus churn on a yearly basis, which is nothing but if you have 10 salespeople, highly likely four of them will leave at the end of the year, right? So now everybody must be thinking, yeah, this is great, but what does it really mean? So what it means is, for sales leaders, for example, like you, Amit, it is very difficult to forecast what it means for the sales, what it means to really provide the right amount of knowledge and right amount of confidence to these salespeople. And that's exactly what Sales Table solves, which is to bring the right amount of the automation to your role plays, coaching, and periodic training, and then combine that with the funnel tracking, right? Because that is absolutely very important, because at the end of the day, if you are learning and you don't know where you are applying, it has no meaning, right? That's really where, honestly, a lot of these LMS platforms really fall short, because when you for you as a leader, you don't know if the LMS platform that you have is working or not, because you don't see that in the quota attainment, you don't see that revenue is increasing because of that. And that's exactly what we do at Sales Table, really bring in those two things together, so that for sales leaders, they have very high confidence on what every sales rep is doing on the platform and how they are trending towards quota attainment. And that's really what we promise at this point of time to our customers. And we are so happy that pretty recently we've been featured in VentureBeat, one of the greatest venture media over here. And we are very, very humbled for all our team, all our customers who've been supporting us in this journey.
Thanks, Suresh, and I think congratulations on your recognitions in this particular field in terms of. And I think the problem statement what you are defining is very very right in terms of. The first thing is I have a very young sales team today, and what I always tell is that first, in with respect to the today, people feel that sitting in an office and doing my work is much better than working in the field, especially in a hot summer like India. Going out and talking to a customer is much more difficult than working on the coding part of it, right? To a certain extent. So, young generation bringing to a sales is a first sales leader tough job. Secondly, people believe that skills can be learned fast and they move fast from one industry to another industry in the sales, right? Specifically the younger generation. But we also need to understand sales is not about skills; it's all about wisdom. Also, is you need to go through an entire cycle to understand what are the ups and downs, right? And that teaches you over the period of time what is the right thing and what is the wrong thing to do, right? So it's not about only knowing theoretical and then applying the skills. It's also understanding the context to a greater extent, and learning over the period of time, which only over the period that process will teach you, right? It cannot be like, and that is where It's not like a technology field where young people are doing much better than the oldies to a greater extent, right? So because somewhere that human element plays a very very important role. So while we talk this, and when you have developed a tool like Sales Table, and the topic today is primarily we are discussing the buzzword which is today is the AI, right? So how does is that you have used AI to understand this customer problem statement, or is it an intuition which has played a great role?
Yeah, definitely. So thanks for asking that, by the way. So for me as a founder and then as a product person in mind, it's very important to understand these problems firsthand, right? When I say that firsthand, in the previous startups and then in previous experiences, the biggest challenge was when I was working with the VP of sales and CROs, and especially on the sales leadership side of it. There has always been one constant struggle that everybody has, which is I'm not able to forecast properly as a sales leader, right? For two reasons, by the way. Number one is I don't know how many of my sales reps will hit the quota. Is kind of hit and miss, right? I mean, you know that. But on the second hand, it is also true that we don't know how many of sales reps are actually doing the right things to get to the quota. When I say right things, it's really like you may have a whatever sales process. For example, if the idea is I need to send emails, I need to send LinkedIn messages, I need to do phone calls, and there is a funnel that you have, and you have the conversion rates for the funnel. The biggest question really is, are they doing the right things? Are they following up? Are they kind of closing the loop with the prospect? When prospect is talking about some objections or some challenges, are they saying the right things? Because as a sales leader, you cannot be in front of every single sales rep that you have, but you can only provide the right inputs to them when they come to you, right? And that's been a constant challenge that I heard from sales leaders multiple times. That's really when we thought of starting Sales Table. That's the first part. And the second one, Amit, you rightly said, is at that point of time, what does it really mean to kind of jump in and start the company, right? And we didn't want to really kind of assume that whatever we know is the right thing, our observations, because sometimes we get really duped into this bubble, right? Which is, oh, you know what? I've talked to these customers, I've talked to a couple of them. I know from my experience, this is what happens. I know from my experience that people don't do it that way. We take so many assumptions as part of that, and sometimes that's actually wrong, right? Because whatever you are going through may not be necessarily the same thing that the customers are going through. So that basically means you have to talk to the real customers who are writing the checks, who are using the software, or at least you want them to use the software. And that's exactly what we did. I mean, the year of 2022, we spoke to at least 70 plus sales leaders in general about what are the challenges, how do they kind of really look at the quota, how do they even define the quota in the first case, and how are they really looking at the yearly capacity planning with the sales reps and everything. And that customer feedback gave us a lot of initial understanding of the challenges, right? And when I say, I mean, we are, of course, talking about the AI tools. At that point of time, there are so many note taker tools that are available for Zoom or Google Meet and whatnot, right? So what happens is, just think about like this, right? If we have a 45-minute, half an hour meeting with a prospect or with a potential customer, then yes, as much as I can remember, I want to understand the sentiment analysis. I want to understand the highlights and the important things that the prospect talked about. So definitely at that point of time, we used to use a tool called Fireflies that basically kind of records the meeting and then gives you a highlight of the highs and lows of the meeting that we have, and then the customer insights and everything. Those kind of AI tools were really the start, right, in 2022. And those kind of tools really helped us a lot. And of course, now it has come to a completely different way in terms of the ChatGPT, Perplex AI, and Gemini, and everything that have come in more on the generative AI side of it. But when we really think about jobs to be done, I think there is every category of what we do as product person, as a founder of the company, that the AI is actually inevitably just coming up in every category that we do at this point of time.
So, the sales table as a tool is basically what is a fit market? Is a B two B or B two C, or is it industry agnostic, or is a verticalized solution? How different sales leaders can get benefit out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking that question. So for us, the sales table is actually for the horizontal, and it is industry agnostic, and which basically means we're actually working with any customer where they have at least the sales team of 20 or more. Um, and they are distributed across, because when they are distributed, as you can imagine, Amit, you talked about young sales team. I mean, they are across, let's say, across the US, across the India, and for you as a sales leader, it's very difficult to kind of really provide uniform access to all the sales reps that are out there. And I'm sure there are these complex products at the end of the day, CRM, ERP, supply chain, and pharma, retail. You need to really understand the product to even talk about the product. And those are the cases where we are really successful, in the sense of when the team is remote, they are distributed, and the products are really complex, and there are multiple products. And that's really where we make a very good, long-lasting impression with our customers, and really bring in that cohesiveness to sales reps.
So, how is that a AI component built into a sales table as a component primarily, and how
Yes.
how it
So
is getting used basically? So, what is the use case for
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I'll say this, right? I think, along with the product management using AI as that part of it, but when we are building the product these days, I think inevitably we all are thinking about the AI component, right? Because not just because AI is nice to have, but AI is a must have at this point of time. And again, I think it's one of those things where, as I know, product people, it's really important for us to think about. It's not a force fit into any product or any feature. I think that's not really how we are thinking about, but it is really about what is that job to be done, rethink about the jobs to be done in the context of AI. And that's what we are bringing in, whether it is about machine learning aspect of it, whether it is about really looking into Gen AI integration. But here is the problem, right? Gen AI integration, now that everybody has the APIs, anybody can do it. That's not the problem. The real challenge is, again, just going back to the whiteboard, rethinking about the complete processes that we have at this point of time, and then seeing how AI can impact. And for us specifically at Sales Table, the way it came out to be was, when you are really thinking about sales rep training, Amit, there is a lot of that personalized training that people talk about, but then often they fall short. Why is that? Because they don't necessarily, the systems don't understand what is the experience level of a sales rep, how great they are able to pitch, how great they are able to provide the objection handling. For example, what is your elevator pitch? And all these kind of things are so important, especially in the sales field. And we need to provide the right inputs. And that's exactly where we actually brought in the AI. For example, think of these use cases where a sales manager is spending on an average about 10 hours every week, by the way, Amit, to answer the questions from sales reps. Those questions can be highly repetitive in terms of, can you please provide me the pricing for this product? I'm selling this product. How much discount can I provide? I'm selling this product. What else can I add as part of the cross-selling nature of it? All these questions are already there. Sales manager has already told this question to somebody else out there. So it's really like, when you think about it, how do we streamline this coaching process, right? How do you streamline the entire aspect of, for example, role plays? And these are the AI features that we actually brought into Sales Table, where let's say tomorrow, as a sales rep, I have a call with a media company, and I can go to the chatbot within the sales table, and then you can ask, hey, I have a call with media company tomorrow. I'm selling these two products. Give me a sales script on how I should start the company meeting. What should I ask them? What should I not ask them? And tell me about, what are the different kinds of distribution of products that I can have with this media company. And because Sales Table has the knowledge of this company as a whole, and then we also have the availability of the ChatGPT or Gemini APIs, we are able to bring in the context of the company, the bigger LLM, and then provide the right inputs to sales reps so that when they go in front of the customer, they are super confident on how should they start the call, how should they end the call, and what are the next steps that are going to be. So that's really a very highly contextual help that we provide to sales reps in terms of sales table.
So I understand from the AI capabilities to a certain extent, and we have also some part of it also implemented generative AI in our CRM application, right? But the typical question comes from the client is in terms of today AI as a technology, right? How much should I trust the guidance coming from AI as a tool, right? Basically, and on what basis should I, is it really I can trust and take decisions on that basis, or then I need to also apply some kind of human intelligence in support of AI to take those calls, right? So what is your experience with respect to your clients and the entire journey about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for that, Amit. In general, I think as much as I'm excited about, and we are all excited about, I think the entire world is excited about the AI. We have to definitely keep in mind that it is in the nascent states yet, right? The whole of the ChatGPT is probably about 2 years old, and then the how these LLMs are trained, how these smaller models are trained, everything is evolving so rapidly on every week and every month basis. There is definitely some sort of skepticism out there. How can I trust? So again, that is something that depends on the use cases that we're all thinking through, because if you think about some of the summarization techniques that we have, then we definitely know that summarization from the ChatGPT point of view or some of these bigger LLMs point of view, they do it really, really well, right? So that's not a problem. But on the other hand, if you are thinking about suggestions, recommendations, then the question really becomes, why is that, right? I can imagine, for example, there was a specific use case that we were dealing with previously, which is if you are a recruiter and then there is a AI system that is recommending top 10 candidates for you, the question would be, why are these candidates the top candidates, right? That's a very important thing for recruiter to understand. The same thing, Amit, you guys run a CRM system. If CRM provides the top 10 deals, then as a manager, you want to know why are these top 10? I mean, what are the features that made these deals top 10? So I think that's a very common question that we keep getting. And that's a very nuanced approach, right? Where is AI right for every use case that you have? May not be. But at the same time, we need to right now think about AI to be as your assistant, as though, yes, there is somebody who did the analysis, who gave you a bunch of recommendations. And now, as a intelligent human, we need to kind of, take a second look, see if that is going through fine, and then approve or disapprove based on that. So that's really where I'm really thinking through. Some of the leaders that we talk to is really that segregation that we need to kind of have, which is AI does really well in some use cases. And especially when we think about the recommendation engine, especially in a very critical capacity, then I think we need to be really, really be careful on what we are getting, right? For example, if somebody is looking at Amazon or Netflix, and then there are a bunch of these movies that are getting recommended, that's not, I would say, as critical, right? Yes, as a consumer, you might be little less happy about some of the movies that it recommended, but as such, you're not really mad. But if you are using a critical software that we have, whether it is about recruiting, CRM, ERP, or the sales um, software that we have, then you want it to work exactly, and it want to provide intelligence on top of what we are doing. And that's exactly where I think we need to distinguish those use cases, and then see always the recommendations are recommendations, but also improve our own way of judging these recommendations, and then go from there.
I think great answer and insights, Suresh. So, of course, there are quite a few questions from community members also, right? So, half a session we typically conduct from the host side of it, and now.
Absolutely.
So, Tanishka has a question. What are the key challenges in integrating AI into startups product roadmap primarily? So, what's your answer to?
Yeah, that's a great one. So you need to really look into, again, just going back to the previous one, what is your use case at the end of the day? Are you thinking of more of summarizing? Are you thinking about more of suggestions? Or is it more of, again, bringing, or rather, is it the AI is the only use case that you have, for example, right? Because a lot of times what happens is we integrate the AI, we provide the recommendations or summary and whatnot, but at the same time, the customer who is out there, who is looking at our product, sometimes may not even understand that there is AI behind it. Or we are using Gemini or ChatGPT, whatever background that we have. So it is always important to make sure that the customer understands there is some magic that is happening. And those are the ones where we want to get feedback from the customers on, are we doing good, or are we doing probably bad in terms of the recommendations. That's has to be as part of the product integration for us. That's number one. Number two, we do need to understand how much of data we are sending from our product to the LLMs, because as excited about I am with the LLMs, but we also need to think about that data that we are sending to LLMs to process the question that we are asking for to get back, right? Is customer okay with that? Are we okay with that, right? What kind of data is going in to get those answers? So that's the kind of the main analysis that we need to do. And assuming that is already done, we know exactly that, yes, what is the data that is going out, and what is the kind of recommendations that are coming in. Initially, I would absolutely recommend to make sure that the recommendations that we are doing, or the summarizations that somebody is trying to do, the AI feature itself, it's useful. which is basically to say provide the feedback mechanisms within the product. Once you provide an answer, hey, is it helpful? Is it not helpful? How can we improve, right? So at the very least, provide a thumbs up, thumbs down button, just so you know from the product standpoint that yes, that's the right set of feature that I've implemented. It is useful for some, it may not be, but at least you want to get that feedback as such.
So there is one question from Vinita, I think, which is very important because we serve a lot of banking customers uh, and healthcare industry, which are both are very data sensitive to a greater extent, right? And that is where when they have to use technology like generative AI, the basically the privacy data privacy issues to a greater extent, right? And data security issues typically crop up. So how to create that trust within the users that okay, these technologies can be used, and basically it can, as an user you can take advantage of the technologies rather than and maintaining the security as well as data privacy to a greater extent.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, at the end of the day, I think some of these industries like banking, pharma, and medical field are slow to adopt some of these AI technologies exactly for that reason. And the one aspect where we are really thinking through is there is a lot of pre-processing that we need to do, especially for these kind of technologies. What I mean by that is, let's say if from the banking point of view, remove the PII, the personal identifiable information for sure, and then as a process, maybe you have some other data that is sensitive to the customers, and maybe there are some numbers and whatnot. If there are ways for you to really sit through your data privacy team, because every bank has their legal teams established at this point of time. Yes, legal teams may not know everything about the data, about the advancements in the AI, but at least they know when a customer is sensitive about the data and what kind of data is super important versus not. So that's something that we definitely are seeing at this point of time, that a lot of product teams are actually working with their legal teams and compliance teams. That's number one. Number two is how can we retract some of the identifiable data within this and then make it much more anonymized and abstract data, right? And then that is the data that you would probably use in your LLMs to actually do some processing and then get back. But again, not knowing the specific use case, sometimes if you remove some of the retract some of the data, the value is gone, right? I mean, you really want the LLMs to really compute based on the data that you have. And that's exactly where I think, right now, all the industries, all the product teams are really working towards that angle of how do we know what data can we send to LLMs versus not. And of course, I mean, the in the future, the idea really is instead of really having a public LLM, is there a way to kind of miniaturize that and then bring it into private instances within the banks, pharma, medical? Yes, I mean they might become less powerful, but at the same time, that will have the same capability in terms of the analysis, augmentation, as well as the outcomes of summarizations that we have.
Yeah, I think very important insights in terms of data security and the data privacy, because these are the two aspects besides ethics in AI. But I think that topic is like opening the opening the
Yeah,
can kind of a stuff,
completely.
right? So it has a very high level definition. But moving on to Aisha has asked one question is that how you can create a personalized product and experience. Personalized experience using AI primarily. So what you suggest how you can create AI can help in creating personalized experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll get to that question, which is I really want to think of personalized experiences as Netflix. The reason why Netflix is a great example for us is it just doesn't really matter. I mean, just think about how you start Netflix, right? I mean, you just go, you enter your the username, password, and typically based on your location, they start recommending. That's the first start, right? It's not as though that they are just blanket way they are recommending some movies or anything like that, but they know in that locality what is really going well. That's the first step. The more and more you are using, the more and more you are liking and disliking, and then the recommendation engine really does a lot. And then what is it, based on what you know, what are the other movies that you might like or the TV shows that you might like. And these are the kind of things, again, the reason why I'm specifically talking about the Netflix experience is that's what a lot of users are now getting used to. That, yes, once I start using a product should know what I like. For example, right now, think about the typical product journey. You log in, there are some dashboards. You log in, there is probably some news feed. But the point really is, if I'm not looking at these dashboards, if I haven't really interacted with them, number one, that means there is something wrong, that those dashboards are not as useful to me. That's number one. Number two, can we personalize those experiences where once I log in, if I'm going to one particular place all the time or one particular feature all the time, then why don't you just surface that feature right away, right? Instead of taking them through a very fixed set of user experience that is always there on your face, why don't you customize using AI on, because you are learning as part of the user journey, user usage. I know exactly what the users are going through. So if that is the case, out of these 100 features that I have, the user is using only these three features, for example. If so, surface them. But at the same time, of course, you also want to make sure that there are other features that you want to kind of bring them into the surface. So the idea really is, hey, I know you are doing this, but as a next step, would you like to also do this? Right? So those are the kind of interfaces that we are going through at this point of time as a redefinition of the AI experiences. That's one part of it. The second part is we are constantly rethinking on what we call as the zero UI experience, right? And that is something in the last couple of years, a lot of product companies are really thinking through, as to say, for example, just like previously, you just voice enabled interfaces. There is no UI per se. It's really about you go, you talk to, let's say, CRM. Hey, tell me about the top 10 deals that I should be working on today. There is no UI. It just gives you the top 10 interfaces. And then it is up to me to choose the best. Okay, now let's go dig into the first deal that I need to get into. And then that will provide the details about that. So when you really think about that, it's nothing to do with a fixed set of UI that is out there, but it is really about reimagining that entire experience as though that there is no UI. You are really going through the analysis, you are talking through, and that's exactly where a lot of these AI companies are now completely redefining and rethinking about the traditional UI mechanisms, right? So there is no one size fits all, but again, that is the kind of personalized experience that everybody is really thinking through in terms of how products are coming, right? The one extension to that great question is this, right? When, as product managers, especially when we're building products, we may not really have the complete leeway into, you may be actually, it's already an existing product. You are probably adding a feature to it. or you have the ability, it is a completely net new product that you are building, or net new feature set that you are building. So in all these instances, they are very nuanced approaches, right? If you are building something from scratch, then there is a lot of freedom for you in terms of how you think, how do you redefine some of these user experiences during the AI. But if you already have a product that is selling, and then for the last 5 years you are making money, then unfortunately you can't make a drastic change to the product just because AI is there, right? So that's exactly the point where you might want to bring in AI in feature sets and insert them into the workflows, and then see how customers are using the AI, and then how AI is really taking them through the entire journey of users, right? And that's one thing that we've seen a lot of product companies do. And the third aspect of that finally would be to say, when we think about the AI, please think about the work journey that we are having. For example, somebody is filing taxes, right? Previously, it is one thing to say, yeah, it is workflow one, workflow two, UI after UI after UI, which is fine. But now, with the help of the AI, for example, AI knows what is your tax situation, what did you do last year. So the idea would be, how can I really bring in this entire journey for this user so that they don't have to miss anything, they are not confused about which UI should I go to. So after one step is done, step two, the AI is guiding them. AI is in fact probably not just guiding, but it is actually filling most of the information on your behalf. So that's the kind of automated experience that we need to think through, because again, think about it, right? Any software that is about out there, it is really about jobs to be done, right? And if that is the case, then we want to make sure that AI is actually doing the job and assisting you to the most part, just so you can actually go out there and then just simply review it and then approve it. That's really where we want to go to in terms of the experiences on the products.
Yeah, amazing insights, Suresh. I think we are at the end of the session, but there are a couple of questions, and there are a lot of young people in the community, those who want to understand from a project management perspective that what are the qualities a product manager, what they should to go into adopting the AI into a products, what kind of a tools they want, they can use it if they want to be into this particular space. So, what is your suggestion to young product managers, those who want to get into this space?
Yeah, absolutely. So, number one, product management is an exciting field, by the way. I mean, I just love it from the point of view that every single day you get to solve problems. That's number one. And then not just solving the problems, but you get to solve problems with amazing engineering talent, sales talent, customers. And that's really the forefront of the joy of a product manager that is out there, right? And what it really means in the age of AI is, unfortunately, as much as I don't like it to say, the field of AI is rapidly evolving, right? The tools are like, whatever tool that I thought is great last week is kind of superseded by a new tool that is doing things 10x better, for example. Um, that's the kind of innovation that is happening in the AI, which basically means we need to kind of really be on top of these go-to meetups that are really talking about AI. Please do make sure at least half an hour a day you are in front of these tech magazines, really see what products are doing, where the entire Gemini, ChatGPT, and Perplexity, and Claude, all these LLMs are going in general on the progress, and make sure that you are building a community within your city, virtual or not. Make sure that you have some people that you are talking to at the end of the day on what they are going through, and then talk to engineering teams on what they are going through, because it's not like as though that the IA is advanced for the last 5-10 years, and there is some maturity. Right now, because of the acceleration that is happening, it is super difficult for anybody to be on top of the AI. And that's exactly where, again, just to repeat, make sure that you are going through some communities, make sure you are attending some AI events, and make sure, most importantly, you are using AI in your day-to-day life, right? Whether it is personal or maybe at work, make sure that you are using this AI so that you understand the power of AI, in terms of how you are able to use it for product management and data analysis and customer feedback and how industries are working. And that's really the part of the getting on top of what AI can offer for all of us.
Thanks, Suresh. Thank you very much for a lot of insights. I think there's a lot of learning which today also I had got from you in terms of AI usage in products as well as the various use cases, the journey of self stable primarily which you have crossed with that, and helping the community to actually adopt these new tools and the technologies to a greater extent. So thanks a lot for your wisdom, insights, and a lot of sharing of knowledge. I think we can have one more sessions over the period of time once you also have few more to talk about the self stable and maybe some other tools which you will develop using the AI component to a greater extent. And look forward to being connect with you and learn from you going forward. Any final thoughts from you for this particular topic?
I mean, again, thank you for this wonderful opportunity, by the way. I mean, really appreciate it. And my only thing is, at this point of time, AI is rapidly evolving. So this is a great opportunity, and this is a great time to be alive, by the way. I mean, I strongly believe in the AI advancements that are happening right now, whether it is for the personal use or for the benefit of the corporations that we all kind of building or working for. There is a lot of great strength that AI can bring in to all the use cases. And that's what really makes me super happy to wake up in the morning and then work and solve what I'm doing. And especially for all the product managers out there, again, honestly, I think you are in a great spot at this point of time where it's not just about being there as a product manager, but right now I feel the AI is actually giving the greatest of the tools for you to be very highly effective as a product manager, right? For example, previously as a product manager, if I have to really learn about, let's say, pharma, until I go on the job and then really learn from my peers and my probably management team and whatnot, I don't know what pharma is. I don't know who are the decision makers in pharma is. But now you can go to some of these AI technologies and ask and learn about pharma in the matter of days and if not weeks, right? So that's really the amount of how fast paced that people are able to learn. And I'm really excited about it. And then I'm really happy to provide whatever I can to this community because I feel product management is one of those areas where a lot of folks are interested, but they don't know where to start, how to start. And I would love to kind of give it back and then see how I can help anyone out there. So feel free to reach out. I mean, I have my LinkedIn out there, and I have my emails as well as on the LinkedIn. So I'm really happy to chat further, Amit, whenever there is a need for sure.
Sure. Thanks, Suresh. And if anytime you are visiting India, just let us know. Look forward to catch up you in person also. And
Of course, absolutely.
thanks a lot for
Amit,
today's session. Thank you
thanks a
very
lot,
much.
everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Thank you.
bye-bye.
Have a great day.